What's up, everybody? Welcome to the I Told You So show. I mean, it's the Wrestling Informer. This is where we give you all the information that is always right, and you're always getting ahead of the game if you watch this show. Which recently they just said, oh, guess what? Breaking news, The Undertaker's going in the Hall of Fame. Well, if you scroll back 3 weeks, you would have known it from this show. I'm Cab Manning. I am from the Lingus Mafia podcast. All of my nonsense, of course, is at Lingus Mafia. And I'm joined by your supermodel slash wrestling informer. That is the glorious Mr. Billy Botti. How are you, Billy boy?
It's
been a week.
I feel terrible today.
Well, in that case, we should just get on with the show so you can go back to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I've missed the Informer show. I've missed the K100 show twice. Yesterday I was supposed to be on at midnight, and I went to sleep falling. I fell asleep watching. I'm so disoriented. I fell asleep watching Dynamite and then never got up. But get this. So this is a legit text I sent to Joe, and it's not like one of those excuses where it's just he went to me link I've got here, link sent, you're good for tomorrow instead, when they realized I wasn't going to wake up. And then when I did wake up, this is genuinely what happened, and I sent him a text explaining. I was like, I don't know what happened last night. I have flu, so I ended up falling asleep, but I did wake up at one point to reply to Disco to say I was coming on, right?
Oh, God.
Then I fell back asleep and literally must have had a dream or a hallucination that I was doing the show. And I genuinely thought I'd done it when I woke up.
Good Lord.
Like, I woke up thinking, like, I was half awake because I got to do the show. But it was like, I know I put my head back down. I was like, right, okay, rest for 2 more minutes and have like a big. You can never do that. Yeah. But I think during that, like, lie back down and rest for 2 more minutes and then get up and do the show, I think I dreamt about doing the show, if that makes sense. And but it was one of those hallucinogenic, like, dreams where I was convinced, okay, I've done this. I did the show last night when I woke up.
Hallucination for you.
Yeah. So,
and I know about you because we've done this before where you have fallen asleep and we were supposed to do shows. And even just today, when you said 15 minutes, I'd fallen asleep earlier. Give me 15 minutes, and I'm like waiting, and I go, that fell asleep again. I know he fell asleep again, and I'm like, why do I get all the computer ready? Because I'm like, I shouldn't do it until he messages me again. So I'm like, oh, okay. So then I called you, and you were like up. I said, oh my God, I'm so shocked. So
I'm one of these people that sleep 5-6 hours a night, and always manage to like and get through pretty easily with it as well. It never bothers me. And then I don't know how. But if I have any time where I get sick or I don't feel right or whatever, then I just can't get up. Like I just can't get up at all. Tomorrow I'll do the thing where I'll get back on the routine. Like sometimes I get on vitamins, like multivitamins, vitamin D, all this kind of stuff.
You call them vitamins over there?
You call them vitamins. Like,
yeah.
You emphasize the A, I know. And then like I go on that little kick, and then I start to feel a lot better. And then all of a sudden that's just that you forget to do. All these patterns of taking vitamins or eating perfectly or drinking 2 liters of water. Once I break those, once I have that day where I went, oh shit, I forgot. Like, it always ends up being like 4 or 5 days of bad eating, no vitamins, letting my go like really dark before I realize I haven't drunk enough water. Yeah. So,
there's another word I wanted to ask you, and I'm like, how do I other than sending him a text of try to pronounce this, what do you call the full name for lab?
Lab?
Yeah. What's the full name of lab? Like where they make chemicals and stuff like that.
Laboratory.
You call it laboratory?
Yeah, laboratory, yeah.
Yeah, see, I heard an English guy say that, and he was saying laboratory, and I was like, that is interesting because it's laboratory here. I'm like, laboratory sounds like, Dr. Frankenstein.
It's all that stuff with the A, isn't it, always?
Yeah, I mean, you guys say tomato as well. I will have tomato.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to some information. Right off the bat, I asked, somebody had messaged me and they said, "What is the deal with Cody Rhodes?" And I said, "That'll be the first question I ask, and I'll find out." I'm trying to find the guy's name just to give him some credit. Pro Wrestling Overtime. That's who asked. So yes, what is the word with Cody Rhodes? I said, I haven't talked to you about it. It'll be the first thing I ask. A lot of people think it's BS. Bully Ray thinks it's BS. And I saw someone say, here's some information that makes me think it is. And they circled like the time and date that all those things were posted, which to me, that doesn't show anything other than they coordinated. All right, AEW, you could release your statement and we'll release our statement. So they all did it at the same time. They were a minute apart or whatever. So, do you think this is a work? Because it does seem, it is one of those odd things. But when you hear, quote unquote, hear from sources that WWE is interested and want to have him, unless that's completely made up, then you would think it would be true.
Yeah, it's not completely made up. The WWE are interested in bringing him in. There's actually ideas in terms of how they would bring him in as well.
I'm guessing day after WrestleMania if it did happen.
Yeah, I would think that would be something that reboots the day after WrestleMania. But well, we knew this contract was coming up, and once they start to mention it on TV, the assumption is that it would get resolved. But WWE, and I didn't even bother doing it as a story because I did the Moxley one, which people will forget about when it happens. But I did the.
You never said anything.
Yeah, I did the Moxley one because I felt like that one had a greater chance of happening. He doesn't have that business relationship with AEW. He has an expensive contract. He has friends in WWE. They've already made an active offer to him to come back and do like a cameo whilst under the AEW contract. But it was a case of, we'll let Jericho go there, but we don't want to let Moxley go there. So the fact that all this stuff was already happening means that Moxley was worth talking about. With Cody, I think the assumption was the same as everybody, that it was going to happen. Now, the thing with the statement, WWE knew, and I knew the day before, that the statement was going to come out at that time. And that's not anything to do with it being a work, because Twitter allows you to post the tweet at a certain time, the same way that Patreon allows you to put up a post at a certain time. And when you choose 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, it never goes out on time. Like, it never goes out on the dot. It basically goes out approximately within 10 minutes of that time. But I don't know if it's a case of so many tweets are going out at that time, or whether it's, where people are using that facility in that way. But yeah, I mean, it's the same on Patreon as well. Whenever I set a post to come out at like 12 o'clock or anything on the hour, it's always like 1 minute past, 2 minutes past. And that includes like when you're going for your 30s, like, 10, 20, 10, 10, 30, 11, 30, whatever. So I wouldn't read anything into that at all. I mean, it could have been coordinated for them to all do it at 10. And they just was like, we need to send our tweet now, and just took them a couple of minutes to get set up. I don't know. I wasn't there, but like, I do know it doesn't mean anything, because I do know the true story is that they're expecting to come in, because you can't work within this company. It's not the type of company that are going to work everybody else there. Like, Tony Khan's not the type of person who's going to work his own people. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, with WWE, it would be a case of, if they're used in this way to enhance a television story or whatnot, then he would never be able to go back there. And he still has a relationship with them where they do like the Dusty Cup, and he's paid like Dusty Rhodes' like royalties, etc. And yeah, there's never been like a major falling out at all.
It seems like it though, when he comes out there with the shovel stuff, and he constantly takes shots, it seems.
But what have the shots been other than
more at Triple H, I guess?
I don't think Triple H was responsible for creating Stardust or anything like that. So I don't know.
And you got to give him credit. He took that Stardust as bad as it could have been. He put all he had into it. He didn't just crawl into a hole and go, I have to do this. That he went for it. And, you know, it was fine for what it was. I mean, it was what it was. I enjoyed dashing Cody Rhodes, to tell you the truth. But
yeah, I mean, he's not going to be any of those two. He's going to be a straight up character. The thing is that it's a confusing one within the household, because my understanding is that she had a role there. She was popular with talent, more popular than him, and she wanted to stay there. He's generally, what my understanding is, the way that he's looked upon by the television audience. Whereas, I mean, you could say it's 50-50. It's not. It's got to the point where it's 75% of people don't like him or want him to turn heel or whatever it is. It's the same way backstage, where there's certain people that like him. If you remember a few years ago with the story about how he treated a runner like really badly, an employee really badly, and he came out and spoke about it, and how he said, like, you couldn't make eye contact with Cody Rhodes. And he was a real to everyone, and yeah, that there's stuff like that around, where there are half the people that are really cool with him, there are half the people that like him. He hasn't had a say over creative, and the same goes for the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega originally had a big say over the direction of the women's division, and was going to be in charge of training them and booking them and laying out matches, etc. And everybody's roles out of that quartet has kind of dwindled over the last couple of years as Tony's done it more, and that's not really what Cody wanted to do. I mean, if you even look as much as this, I don't know what the long-term booking of him not winning or challenging for the world title, but the long-term booking normally of not being able to challenge for the world title is finding a way to challenge for the world title and winning.
Yeah, it's like retirement stuff with Macho trying to come back.
Yeah, so I don't know if that ended up being a thing where they just said, all right, so we'll just stick with this, and never got around to creating that story arc. But just all in all, without speculating and saying maybe it's this, maybe it's that, the thing that I know is that he has left. They thought he was going to sign up until the end. They even, especially Brandy, was set up with a story with Paige Van Zandt. Cody wasn't involved in that. Cody was more hesitant and less likely to sign, and it looked a little bit like there would be a period where he would maybe be off television after losing the belt to Sammy Guevara. But it looked like a period where he maybe take some time off to negotiate this and settle on what he had to do. But there was no plan to take Brandy off TV. But I think with this whole announcement, I think hit the fan completely, and they decided they were both going to go, because it was her that was staying on TV. It was him that was working without a contract, actually for a few weeks. That contract hasn't run out when the statement was made. That contract ran out a little bit before that. So I think for that to come out is the final thing that says this isn't going to get sorted out. And I think with the WWE being interested, and Vince actually having a story with it, and I'm talking Vince, like, I'm not talking like Bruce Pritchard's made a pitch, or Michael Hayes has made a pitch, or Ryan Ward, or Shane McMahon, or Triple H, or anybody. Like, Vince McMahon has an idea. So that's going to lead to him coming in, I believe.
You know what this idea is?
No one does.
It's hard to buy that they would push him as like a major contender, other than let's change the IC title back to the way it used to look. I mean, he's going to go against Roman. We're going to supposed to believe that?
I think
he'll be hated too when he comes back.
When you hear there's an idea and it leads to Cody Rhodes coming in, it's not a gimmick. It's not Stardust or anything like that.
Sure, it's going to be Cody Rhodes, I'm sure.
It's Cody Rhodes, and it's the freedom to be the Cody Rhodes he wants to be, which I believe. So I don't know if this is the idea, but I've heard from somebody who I can't say who is, that there was an issue with him not turning heel, because he told Tony Khan that he didn't want to do it. Now, the internal belief is that the reason Cody Rhodes didn't want to turn heel is because everything he had to do and say as part of that turn, he wanted to save and keep fresh to move over to the WWE because he knew for some time that he wasn't going to renew that deal and that he was ready to go. I was told that the whole role model thing is, they said he's not John Cena. He actually doesn't even really believe that he's John Cena. And that the real reason behind this is that he doesn't want to waste any of the material that he has when he can do it all in WWE. So I think this could be a character that says, you fired me and now I'm back to take out the people that you love kind of thing. I think it could be the outsider coming in, which would explain why he didn't turn heel. Because if you turn heel there and you're 2 months into it and then you really want to leave, what is it you're bringing over? I mean, there's one philosophy that says to me, okay, get real hot like Pillman and then leave for more money so they can actually, sample what you're going to do. But as I said, this is not a 100% fact. This is somebody who knows him and who works for WWE who told me this is probably what he's doing.
My prediction is obviously, like I said, day after WrestleMania, he comes back, and I think he's going to do a Jeff Jarrett, but in a better way, and get the microphone, be smiley, and then turn it heelish where he pipe bombs, as everyone says, and tells what happened and why he left and, how they kept him down, and really just, tell truths, but, as they know it's coming, but they're still the truth. That's my thought. I
mean, one thing I will say is that the guy is able to talk and he can cut a better promo than most of the people in WWE. The problem is that when he had the license to book for himself, we saw that said promo and that said program over and over again, which was him getting into a very personal feud where he would cut long monologues and he would lose and then he would end up winning and he would end up bleeding. And we saw that time and time again. He didn't actually get a loss against Anthony Ogogo, but that was the same thing where he became Mr. Patriotic. He
was at war with England.
Yeah, he became the guy that the first ever guy to have a mixed race child. He united black and white worldwide. He tried to take credit for that. He had that win. He had that program with Brody Lee, where people turn around and said Brody Lee was the greatest TNT champion of all time just because he had it for a month or so.
I was to say because there was only 3 of them or whatever.
Yeah. But then he also had that same program with MJF where MJF turned on him and when he lost to Jericho as well. So we've seen that. We've seen him lose and then chase revenge in programs, and it seems to be the only thing that he could do. And it's always cutting long promos about how personal it is to him and how personal it's become. And I think he needs to step away from the part where he is in charge of coming up with ideas and reasons as to why he should be wrestling people. I mean, WWE would do that for you. They're terrible. They just throw out matches for no reason. So there needs to be a little bit more reason there. But I always see sort of Cody Rhodes as the poor man's version of Edge, whereas Edge comes in there, he's thrust into programs with people, but in his promos, he always makes it make sense. But even Edge can get to the point where in this current WWE climate, he can be repetitive, where he's always in a program where, okay, you're working with Seth Rollins. Okay, now you're working with The Miz. And he has to find his own ways to make it really personal, to make it a program that somebody will care about. And that's always the handicap that they give Edge. And it's I don't know if Cody had that handicap in AEW where they said, hey, you're going to work with MJF. You're going to work with Brody Lee. You're going to work with Anthony Ogogo. You're going to work with Andrade, Malachi Black. And you need to find ways to make it interesting. And the only thing he could come up with was the same stuff every time. But anyway, I think to get off this, I think he is coming in. That's my understanding.
You had another story last week because it's a slow week, and I respect more when you say, "Well, nothing's going on this week."
Well, stuff's
What am I going
going
to
on,
force
but it's
stuff?
like it's stuff that's out there anyway. I mean, I could talk about Steve Austin because that's my story in the first place.
There you go. Yeah. What's going on with is Steve Austin doing this match? And if he is it just in jeans and a nonsense match? He's not going to be in full tights.
Well, I told you what Ronda Rousey was going to wear, but I haven't really seen people talking about that when I turn around and said 3 months before she's coming back, and then a week before when someone else is credited for the story, I say, okay, this is what she's going to be wearing. So
yeah, no,
yeah. So but on this instance, I can't tell you what he's going to be wearing at this point in time. I do know that he's been training for a while, but when I said, and I was the first one to say that Steve Austin is going to be heavily involved at WrestleMania, my initial understanding there were only two ideas, which I broke here on the show. Do you recall what they were?
Was it one of them? Was one of them hosting by chance?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even think that's I'm like, who cares about that? What's the other one?
Yeah, the first one was to host. Was they were thinking about having him to be the host, and that was going to be the payoff to McMahon and Austin Theory, where he ended up stunning Austin Theory. The other one was for him to be, and at one point they were thinking, why don't we do both across 2 nights? The other one was to have him as the enforcer,
yes,
the referee for the Roman Lesnar match, so that he would keep the Usos away from the ring. The issue with that is that we didn't really get that finish at day one, where the Usos and Paul Heyman, where Paul Heyman would turn on Brock Lesnar and the Usos will be involved in the finish, etc., which is how we got the belt, which is how we got from Brock never getting the belt and still managing to get a third title match, obviously via the Royal Rumble. So that story's been tweaked slightly, but we've always been on here to report the changes with that correctly as they've happened, with the belt going to Lashley, etc. So as things stand, he's not going to be doing that. But they want to commit to him finding a bigger role, which is finally doing this wrestling match. And with Steve Austin doing this, don't think to yourself it's so much about Dallas, and that Dallas will be the one and done situation that is being reported in the sheets. If Steve Austin does this match, the primary reason for Steve, and when I say if, I mean he's going to probably do this match, and the primary reason for it is simply because Steve Austin has been mulling over and tentatively knocking back $5 to $6 million offers to do single matches in Saudi. There is a list of matches there that they want Steve Austin to do, which includes wrestling against Goldberg, which I don't think will happen, because if Steve Austin's going to come back, the list is going to be very much going up against guys that can protect Steve Austin.
You're looking at, that can work and do all the work for him.
Right. Owens, AJ, Rollins, I would think. For him to get into the ring with Goldberg, as wanted by the Saudi prince, then there would have to be a whole lot of preparation and a whole load of comfort on Austin's side in order to go and do that. But these are the kind of things that are on the table, in terms of, at one point we were so close to seeing Steve Austin versus Triple H in Saudi when Triple H was healthy. That was really close. That was really close to happening before they ended up going with a tag team deal with Shawn Michaels coming back instead. That was around about that time. That was near the start of these Saudi deals. So we've been close with it before. And I think if they pull the trigger on this, and this alone will be 2 or 3 mil anyway, then we open the door to taking a couple of years worth of Saudi matches and Steve Austin pocketing another $25-30 million, which will be very close to, I mean, if he makes another 25-30 million, that's half of what he's made through his entire career. Because as big as those Attitude years were, what people don't understand is the $12 to $10 million years for Austin, right? There were only 4 of them. There's only 4 of them, right? He's not, his run isn't as long as people think. I know people put him up there in high regard and with Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he was only massively active in 97 as a top guy, 97, 98, 99, and he missed nearly all of 99. He missed nearly all of 2000. So 97, 98, 99, missed nearly all of 2000, and then we had 2001 where he was primarily a heel. So you only have those 4 years. Obviously, on paper, it'll be 6 years because the King of the Rings in 96. There's obviously a bounce from that. He is actually employed in 2000, and in 2002 he stays around till May. But you've got 4 peak Steve Austin years where he's the number one guy shifting the merchandise. So Steve Austin's fortune is probably around about 60, 70 million. And some of that has been aided by being a merchandise seller since he left the company. I mean, Steve Austin's been paid around $400,000 a year just to have his involvement, just to have his Legends deal with the WWE. And on top of that, in this particular year, when they went back to touring, and we saw like the prominent release of the Austin 316 shirts, of the city shirts, of Brooklyn 316, Dallas 316, Phoenix 316, etc. This has been a year where he rose to the second biggest merchandise seller in the year 2021. Although, you know, that was only for the house show period, but still, he still was enough to get him second. And that would have seen him pocketing an additional $1 million on top of that as well. But if you look at all of that, and then you look at it compared to, I worked a full year with this company for $12 million. I worked a full year on top. I worked house shows. I did all of that. I can match what I made through the peak years of the Attitude Era by making 2 appearances in Saudi Arabia, one in February and one in November every year. In fact, they're gonna up their shows to 3 shows a year in order to compensate for the pandemic. Now there'll be an introduction of a summer show at some point. My understanding is. So yeah, I mean, Steve Austin can be reeling off 15 to $20 million a year by doing 3 matches if he wants to. But I think at some point you will need to adhere to the request where they say, we want you to go in there with Goldberg. We want you to go in there with Triple H. We want you to go in there with, well, John Cena's not going to go there. So how are you going to do that? I don't know. You're not going to be able to. But yeah, this is what they want.
And so you're thinking this is not going to be that street fight type of match where he's in jeans and everything. You think he's going to be in full what he was gear, or is he going to be, or is this going to be, he's going to be hiding?
I don't disregard that it's going to be some kind of like Texas street fight or bull rope match or something, you know, something that they can do. I almost feel that there was a dog collar match announced on AEW this week, and I almost feel that maybe something is something they know something in terms of, if they do a really, really good dog collar match, people will not think anything of the fact that WWE are doing a Texas strap. What's it called? The Texas strap match, or
yeah, it'd just be a strap match. I mean, well, you would call it Texas,
or you,
wherever you're at.
Or you do Texas death match, and Owens just
rope match.
This is the thing. My belief is that Owens has been chosen not because we do the stunner versus stunner thing, but my belief is that if there is some kind of Texas death match, then he will take bumps that other people didn't want to take. I mean, we've seen this guy take a massive bump off the WrestleMania sign. Yeah. We've seen him come off cages and stuff. This is what, he's not Mick Foley, but this is the guy who is willing to do Mick Foley type things. And I believe the way that you hide Austin in this match and make it memorable is just for Kevin Owens to do things in that match where that's all you remember, how badly Owens got his. Obviously, the IWC community and the people who appreciate the work rate, etc., will understand exactly what they saw. And that's really the problem that I have with it, because that fan base has primarily become the fan base at this juncture. Like, they'll understand that you're hiding the fact that Steve Austin can't come out and wrestle and doesn't want to take on his neck, and he won't.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Austin's not going to go there and do what Edge done. He's not going to get spine busters on his neck and pop-up powerbombed or anything like that. But I do think he's going to go out there and brawl, and I do think that they're going to they're going to hit each other with things, and Owens is going to primarily be taking the brunt of the bumps. But yeah, my understanding is that this is happening because it's easy to navigate from where he was at. Once he already agreed to do WrestleMania and he was going to be heavily involved, for this to now come up, it means the money can be right, and it means that he can turn around and go, okay, I did one. Do you remember the Shawn Michaels thing in 2002 where he came out and said, I genuinely thought I was coming to wrestle Triple H for one match, right?
Yeah.
But then Vince McMahon puts him over in the match. We do the injury angle at the end, but Vince McMahon puts him over. Now, to do that, to make that decision in 2002, when Triple H is your top heel and Shawn Michaels says he's wrestling one match, and to put Shawn Michaels over, there's no way that you think that Shawn Michaels is doing one match. So I think this is going to be more of a situation where Steve Austin knows prior to WrestleMania. And I think even if he does tell them, this is my only match, I found getting ready for this match really hard. I found training and taking the bumps really difficult. So this is going to be my only match. They're still going to put him over in Texas, right? He's not going to lose.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry about that. But with the Shawn Michaels thing back in 2002, I think that was a case of, yes, it's going to be one and done. But in the weeks or the days leading up to that match at SummerSlam, I think it was decided already that Michaels was going to be able to give Triple H the win back, because there's no way he would have gone over otherwise. And I think Steve Austin will know, and his body will know, if Steve Austin is going to do more than WrestleMania afterwards. And I think he's doing this not just to wrestle in Texas, because I believe that his send-off against The Rock, he would be happier with that than he would be doing one more match in Texas. I don't think he needs $5 million, but does he need or want $35 million to do, to do these Saudi dates? I would say, yeah, I would say this is what he's trying to do. I believe
hard to leave on the table.
I believe this is being done to see, all right, so they've pulled the money truck up and I'll take it. And a part of the reason I'm going to take it is to see if I can take these other dates too. That's got to be the reason.
Do you have any more news, or do you want to get into the Elimination Chamber and run through that quickly with some opinions, and if you have betting lines on them, or if you just want to go over them?
Yeah, let's go over the betting lines. Sorry, I just see my kids in a viral clip. Someone just sent me.
So on the I'm looking at a web page where it has all the matches in there. So we got the Elimination Chamber match itself, and that is the one with Bobby Lashley as the world champion against AJ, against Austin, against Brock, against Seth, and against Riddle. My thought is that Bobby is leaving here with the championship.
The odds have Brock Lesnar as the favorite here.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think this in your own, just being a fan? Do you think that? I don't think. I think it's got to be obviously Brock and Roman, and I don't think they're doing the title for title thing, which I wish they did, because I hope it becomes one, but I don't see that happening. And why would they have they give it away to give it back?
Yeah. I mean, I'll run through the rest of the field.
Okay.
Lashley's 3-1, Riddle's 6-1, Rollins is 6-1, Styles is 10-1, and Austin Theory's 40-1. My understanding with this match is that Lashley's going to lose the title anyway. The only thing that they were deciding upon was whether Matt Riddle and Randy Orton was going to have the championship, or whether Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns was going to be title for title, because they already have Ronda and Charlotte on the other night, and they already have matches coming up, like Steve Austin is going to be on the card, and also they're looking to get to Edge versus AJ Styles. Mm-hmm. So they have enough to make both nights relatively important. So the idea of putting the title on Brock Lesnar isn't that ridiculous, especially with the fact that it would be a non-unification. It would be title for title, and the winner would be the champ, would be Roman 2 belts or Lesnar 2 belts, as opposed to unifying the titles, which means that at any given point they can do a separate defense of 1 belt and split them up again. Now, I completely disagree with that way of doing it. I believe you just now commit to it, because the idea is that you do put these 2 belts together, and you put every belt together by the time WrestleMania 40 comes around. And the idea for the next year's WrestleMania, if you didn't do it this year, was for The Rock to have one of these belts, because that was the way you were going to get to Rock and Roman, by having The Rock have one of these championships and make that match as big as possible. Now, if they feel that doesn't need to have it, then they can make this match as big as possible. Then you can head towards unifying the other titles. My belief was that you were going to do Ronda versus Becky this year and Roman versus Brock this year. And you were going to do Becky versus Ronda again next year to unify, and Rock versus Roman next year to unify, and make WrestleMania 39 really big. And then WrestleMania 40 starts again with just singular championships. And then you make a decision on whether you do the 2-night thing, which is very odd, because when the 2-night WrestleMania was first pitched, WrestleMania 36 was an accident. And my information is that the next 2-night WrestleMania, where they were going to go 2 nights permanently, was going to be at WrestleMania 40, with the idea being that in future 2-night WrestleManias, night 1 would be a smaller venue with higher ticket pricing, and a smaller card. So it'd be like the appetizer, which would have a big main event on it. So it would have a main event, but it'd be a smaller card. So the original plan is to have 6 matches at Madison Square Garden and on the Saturday night, and 8 matches at MetLife Stadium on the Sunday. That was the working plan for WrestleMania 40. So, and then you continue that going when you move around from city to city, because the feeling is that the stadium WrestleMania wasn't as loud, and wasn't as you lost the sound there. You lost the sound on the WrestleMania card through having it in the stadium. So they wanted to sort of obviously make money on 2 nights. And once you play your what does it say? Your home fields. Once you play your home fields, once you play your WWE territories, it gives you a better chance to elicit that response and to sell out arenas frequently for a higher price bracket. Now, I'm talking about $4,000 ringside seats at Madison Square Garden. I'm talking about $400 for a WrestleMania ticket to sit anywhere, right?
So do we know that it's going to be in New York after LA?
We don't, because we don't know now if they're just going to go stadium for 2 nights in a row. If they do,
because when you said New York for 40, I was like, did you hear this? I didn't know if that was just something.
New York was 40 which was a while back. This was after 36, and the idea was to implement a plan from 40. So 37 would have been at Tampa one night. 38 would have been in Dallas one night. 38 originally was going to be in SoFi, right? Was it originally?
Yeah, and then they flip-flopped it, right? They said, let's flip that over one. Yeah.
39 was going to be in Vegas, and 40 was going to be in New York. So this Dallas one popped in out of nowhere. It wasn't even on the agenda. It was somewhere that was on a list of places we need to go back to, along with poor Minnesota, who have been owed a WrestleMania for about 10 years, right? It's like they've been meaning to go there for a long time. So 40 was supposed to be this 2-night WrestleMania, but the idea is that we aren't going to try and sell out a city twice for 80,000 people. The idea is that we are going to put night 1 in a massive hardcore town like Chicago, Philadelphia, Boston, or New York. We are going to people with the ticket prices, with charging them $400 just to get in. And we're going to sell ringside for a ridiculous price for night 1. And in night 2, we're going to attempt to do a shorter show in a stadium. Now, this also included that on some occasions where they would go to a Minnesota, for example, or a Texas, this would have meant that Texas didn't get both nights of the Mania. This would have meant that unless you're in a New York market or the Boston market or the Philadelphia market or wherever, you would go to your home favorites. You would go to your regular sellouts and you would give them the WrestleManias for night one. And night two could be on the West Coast. You go East Coast, West Coast. You could go Saudi, West Coast, Saudi, East Coast, UK, USA. Like, you can do whatever you want with this. It wasn't going to be a case of we're doing it all in New York. The first one was because it's Madison Square Garden, MetLife Stadium combination. And this was 100% booked for 40. Like, I knew price plans, everything. I knew how they were going to price it. I knew, Cav, how they were going to make the same amount of money from Madison Square Garden as they were going to do from MetLife Stadium through their pricing. Put that in, get your head around that. One has 4 times more people. So that's how they were going to do it. And it's
kind of like just main roster NXT takeover the night prior.
Yes and no, because I think they would have made it as even as possible. Like, you would have got, and they're not stupid. They know that you've got your Styles, your AJ Styles, your Seth Rollins, your all the guys that came through from NXT and the Indies and whatnot. They know that these guys can sell out New York. They know that's the hard talk territory. We know this is the audience where they want to see Edge versus AJ Styles, right? We know that, the John Cena match can go on at the stadium, and or the Undertaker return, or your WWE title match or whatever, Ronda Rousey's match, that can go off the stadium. But you know that if you put the right combination of the big indie workers on at Madison Square Garden, you know that you can sell it out. So
would they be calling it WrestleMania too?
Yeah, WrestleMania Night 1.
Really? It would just still be called WrestleMania Night 1.
Well,
okay.
This is what plans were. This is not going to be now. If this Dallas thing is successful, which at the moment it isn't, the reason why you're seeing, the big play to get Ronda back, the reason why you're seeing that Steve Austin is going to be finally paid enough to do this, the reason why you may even see The Rock coming and challenging Roman at the end of the show, or why they're still trying to get The Undertaker to wrestle on it, is because they're nowhere near sold out on any of the nights. They're not even halfway sold out on any of the nights.
Weren't they hurting the first time that it was in Dallas, even though they said it's like the indoor, their fake record stuff? I thought there was a problem with the first time because everyone was injured on that first one.
Everyone was injured, but they reached. So when they book a stadium, before they cancel it, like they did at WrestleMania 7, they have minimum configurations in. And in order to hit the minimum configuration, they have different pricing points where they'll take tickets down to a certain price. You can do buy one, get one free. You can do kids' prices. You can start giving them away to corporate partners and businesses in the local area. And you'll do everything you can to hit the minimum. And what the minimum configuration basically means is that you're going to do the show to have you're going to set the building up in a certain way so that it doesn't look bad. And they would go to somewhere like AT&T Stadium and they would go, okay, with this many banners and by tapering off the whole top section and by putting screens here, here, and here, we can make 60,000 people look full. I don't know if that's the number, but I'm telling you how it works. It would probably be less. It would probably be something like 54,000. So I think they know that with 54,000 people at Dallas Stadium, they know that they can make it look full. And that would be the minimums I think they're shooting for both nights. I don't think you're going to hear that they've done 100,000 this time. I don't think you're going to hear it. I think you're going to hear them.
I'm like, for 2 nights, 100,000 each. Jeez.
I think you're going to hear them say they've done about 80,000 across 80,000 a night, with the real figure being around about 60, 65.
Oh my God.
And I think they're going to be giving away about 10, 15,000 tickets a night.
It's like lying and saying you're 8 inches when you're 5, for God's sake. Let's go through these real quickly before and maybe not spend so much time. We've been going through. It's been a good show. You've had a lot of good information, and I think people will like it. Becky Lynch.
Yeah, Becky Lynch and Lita. Like Becky's 1-16 favorite. So
I would assume this too. Do you think is Lita hanging around to do some more dates here, or is it the fake? I'm staying around just to make people think she can win.
No, I think she's staying around. It's similar to Edge, in terms of my understanding. It's similar to Edge because there was an offer for her to go to the other company, and she did what Edge did, which is, hey, uh, I'm loyal to you guys, but if you don't want me to wrestle ever again, if you don't think I've got one more run in me, these guys do.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a case of them turning around and going, oh yeah, well if
They're so scared to lose anybody to them.
Anybody with a name, yeah. So
yeah, just with a name. Yeah, they don't want to give up a name.
It's always a case of, well, if they're going to pay you, then
that's crazy because it wouldn't even matter. Like Punk didn't change the ratings to the world and everything. What would they be afraid of? If they don't want Lita, it's like, go ahead, go over there. Why? It's never going to like be the main company. So they freak out. Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. The one problem I'm having here is they do a good job with Goldberg's promos trying to make you believe and saying, I believe differently now and I got myself together and, it's going to be the real Goldberg this time. So you go, oh, okay, maybe there's chance. So then he loses again. You go, well, where's the credibility now? But then again, we also thought Brock was going to beat him and he beat Brock in 4 seconds. So there's no way they obviously have Roman lose this match though. But they painted him into a corner.
Stupid thing that Bully Ray said, where he said it would be good if Goldberg won and just lost it on the SmackDown.
Oh God, that would be. You imagine you waste all that time. It would be fine if it wasn't all this time. You have all that time in a row. You can't do that just to do it. I get it if it was earlier though, because it'd be like, oh, because that's how we got Brock. It was like, oh my God, and I was fine with it. But when somebody has a streak like this, you can't do that.
This is Goldberg. So Goldberg's out of contract now with the WWE, but like the Saudi stuff is all paid separately. So this could be his last match. I don't know how much desire there is even in Saudi to see him wrestle any more people here on this main roster. But at the end of the day, like this couple of $1 million is nothing to them. Like it's really hard to explain to people how little $2 million is to these people who actually,
when you have billions.
Yeah. So if it would almost be a case of where they could be sitting at dinner tonight and the prince could say to Goldberg a bit and be like, oh, we look forward to it. It's always good to see you again. And he could turn around and go, oh, well, this is the last time you're going to see me. I don't have a deal anymore. And they turn around and go, oh, we'll sort that out for you. So, it's not a big deal to get a new deal when primarily this is being paid by other people. I mean, the WWE deal that was stretched because of this Saudi deal. The WWE deal was stretched out for ages because what they paid him to do 6 matches was stretched out for years. So they were able to keep him fresh by being able to use him at Saudi on someone else's payroll. So, but this is really the end of it for this current one.
The women's Elimination Chamber match. This is with Rhea Ripley. This is Bianca Belair. This is Liv Morgan, who had a great outfit on, by the way, and they don't ever let her win anything. Old Piper Niven, Doudrop, Nikki Ass, and now Alexa Bliss, who is in here, which I had so many problems this week with this therapist session. Such nonsense. I would assume this is for Bianca to win again, and it's getting boring to me with Bianca always being the, that she won. They did the whole make Rhea look good thing last week, and how many times did Rhea's top fall out? It's 3 weeks in a row that her fallen out, and it was more than 3 times in this match by itself. So I'm waiting for them to tell her you got to come out in a vest.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't interest me that much when she looks like she does. So,
did you see Bianca pulling her top up forward during the abdominal stretch? You got to look at this. She's grabbing, and I'm like, what is she doing? She grabs full handful of that vest and yanks it up, and they go camera from the reverse side. You're seeing the bottom of Rhea at this point because she's pulling it up so much. So they must have said, "Hey, pull your effing top up already."
I guess she
And,
feels that
that's
they're
what
going
they
to make
did.
her cut. If they're going to make her cut her hair like that she wants to have some sex appeal. Like she wants
She's like, "Look, I'm really a woman. Look, you see these
yeah,
things?"
exactly. Yeah. Well, Bianca's the favorite here. She's the same odds as Brock Lesnar. So,
Wow.
again, I don't really know anything about this one like I do with the other one. I know that Brock is supposed to be winning, and they were thinking about Matt Riddle. And I heard nothing about them keeping it on Lashley at the moment. So,
Wow.
well, we'll see. Like by
surprised
tomorrow,
by that.
I don't put any betting picks out until I get 100% concrete information.
And where are they?
As late as possible. Hey,
where are the betting picks?
Oh, the betting picks will be at thedaysheets.com or they'll be at lockbetting.com. Yeah, but I think it's all set up for Bianca to win. This means obviously that because of the switch up between Charlotte to Becky for Ronda Rousey, that Sasha Banks now is out of a big match at WrestleMania. So it'd be interesting to see what she ends up doing. There was talk about doing Sasha and Bailey against the Bella Twins and trying to move the tag belts off quickly, which are currently they're on Carmella and Zelina. You could do that as a 3-way match or something instead, because you keep the you keep those two other girls on WrestleMania because they do deserve to be on it. But yeah, at the moment there's no real concrete plan for Sasha Banks. But here, I can't see past Bianca winning. But Bianca and Becky's already been a feud this year anyway, so it's weird that you do that as your Mania match. I can only think this would be an opener on night 2.
And do you think she beats Becky in the same amount of time that Becky beat her?
No, I think she would probably win.
Open the show, you know.
No, I think they've had enough regular matches. Well, I mean, like you think about this match. One year, like Flair and Hogan didn't happen because they'd seen it nationwide and they didn't like it. They didn't like how it was looking, and they didn't like the audience responses to it, and they didn't like the ticket sales, etc. But in this instance, they probably do like the match. But every person who's been to a WWE show, including me, who's been to like just one in the UK or 2 actually, but I've seen this match already. And everybody from whatever country you're in that WWE's toured in, or whatever state you're in, whether you're in like a tiny little place like Des Moines, Iowa, or whether you've been to like Madison Square Garden, you've already watched this match. So it's really weird to like put this on the Mania card, but I think that is the direction to go. And I can't see any other winner here at all, which shows you the weakness of the Raw division. And Becky should actually come through with the belt. Because if you're facing Ronda Rousey next year, you should come through with a belt. Unless, of course, you're going to be going over to SmackDown to face Ronda over there, which means that puts unification out of the window. But I'd have Becky win here, I'd have Ronda win here, and I'd have them come together next year as strong champions. That's what I would do.
Ronda and Naomi versus Sonya and Charlotte. You know, they got to do the little warm up for what we're going to get at Mania by doing that tag match thing. The former like Saturday Night Main Event where you would tag up beforehand.
Naomi and Ronda are huge favorites at 1-7. But keep an eye on this match, because my understanding is that this show is babyface heavy. If you look at the exceptions being Becky Lynch and Roman Reigns and the Usos as well. So it's babyface heavy and it's predictable as well. So there is actually talk in terms of putting an upset on this show. And it could be either The Miz beating Mysterio, Charlotte Flair and Sonya winning, or Drew McIntyre losing to Madcap Moss, which would be unbelievably bad. So yeah, there is talk about putting a result on there, because they know what people think, and it's going to be echoed even more tomorrow once the polls go out on Instagram in terms of people voting for who wins what matches.
And plus, you know that I would assume Charlotte is losing to Ronda at Mania, and Sonya will be losing to Naomi at Mania. So they win this to get the heat going into Mania, no?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that they do. I mean, I feel that the 1-7 price, like when you sports bet, you're always looking for underdog value, and I think that the underdog value does lie in the heels here, because I think they need to win. If Ronda if Ronda makes Sonya tap out, which probably is going to be what happens because WWE don't think the way we do. You know, it's not really a big surprise. I think that I do believe, gun to my head, that would be the finish. But I think this is worth looking at as an upset.
Usos versus the Viking Raiders. I am shocked they're still on with the Viking Raiders at all. It's just such a lead balloon. It goes over like SmackDown Tag Team Championship. I would say that the Usos will win this, and it's pretty much they're just letting the Viking Raiders have a match because they don't have money tag teams.
Well, originally, Brock and Roman were supposed to be in this match on as part of the teams. So we ended up getting to this match without those two guys being involved. That 6-man tag, I don't believe you'll ever see it unless WWE randomly announce an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. Suddenly,
they'll ruin Saturday Main Event next. Don't touch Saturday Main Event.
Yeah, I think the Usos win.
Drew McIntyre versus your buddy Madcap Moss. People are very high. I think it was Cornette that was like crazy high on Madcap Moss. And he said, though, he goes, he's doing what he has to do now because, you know, that's what he's given. But it's like, this is your job. What are you going to do? You put everything you have into it, kind of Stardust style. But he says Madcap Moss can do everything. So I'm waiting to see this one day where I go, wow, Madcap is a great talent in this and that, because I can't get past the character because I go nuts watching it.
Yeah, I think that with Drew McIntyre moving on to a world title shot at some point after Mania, you can't really have him lose this at the moment. Yeah. But I heard the same thing about Madcap Moss.
Yeah, I'm dying to see, you know, what happened. I guess, you know, because he was Riddick Moss before this, and who knew? Because once you come to the main roster, they forget everything that ever happened. Mysterio versus Miz. God, this is an actual hard one. I'll pick Mysterio just because Miz is doing dastardly stuff to beat him prior. So,
yeah, I'm gonna take Mysterio.
The kids in Saudi get Mysterio. You know,
yeah,
it's all
you got the video game cover and everything, but yeah. I think if anything gets picked out for something that they change, because they're trying to make sure that nobody can turn around and go, "Oh, I predicted the whole pay-per-view card." I think it'll be this one. I don't think it'll be Madcap Moss, and I just don't think they're going to have Charlotte pinning Naomi in that match. That's what they should do. That should be the one they choose. They should have that. It should be that one for the sake of storyline. But I think it will be this one if they do.
Hell, it could be. You know what? It'd be really shocking is if they pinned Ronda, because it's a tag match and you could get around it by cheating, by she gets knocked out by some nonsense. So like Charlotte like pins very cocky because it's not a real pin, and it's like, oh look, I beat you when it's nonsense. But I know what you mean. They're not going to do
it. Just one last bit of news now that we're done with that. The March pay-per-view has been cancelled. They're not doing a March pay-per-view now, so this is the last thing. And they'll run all the way to WrestleMania. So
that's what I like. That's what I have said this for so long. Why don't you have the month before the pay-per-view of, you know, Mania? Leave it alone so we could build up something, because God forbid they never do. It's weeks in between and they move on to another story.
Yeah, so that's what they are. That's what they are doing. So that March pay-per-view was, so this Elimination Chamber was supposed to be an Elimination Chamber. And this pay-per-view was supposed to be a Saudi pay-per-view with a Saudi name, and then what did they call it?
Crown Jewel?
No, Crown Jewel was the one we've just had, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they're like always Crown Jewel. And then they had the Greatest Royal Rumble. I don't know what else they had then.
They had something else. They had the one where what was the one where Bray Wyatt lost the belt to Goldberg?
God, is there any? All I think is Crown Jewel.
I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, I'll try to type it in.
They had the Crown Jewel was the one where they had the King of the Ring, but I don't know if they had a different name for one in February, or was that Crown Jewel as well?
I think they're always Crown Jewel.
No, it can't be.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll keep looking while you're
But
doing
I got nothing to say. But I mean, so I'll run through the pay-per-view schedule. Yeah. So this pay-per-view was supposed to be a Saudi pay-per-view. The Elimination Chamber was supposed to be in March, and then Saudi's pay-per-view got changed to the Elimination Chamber. That was what was supposed to originally happen. You still got WrestleMania Backlash. You then have an unnamed pay-per-view in Chicago, which will probably get a stupid new name.
Super Showdown.
That was it. Yeah.
There you go.
And then you got Money in the Bank in a stadium in Vegas in July. Then you've got SummerSlam in July, 4 weeks after Money in the Bank. So SummerSlam is 4 weeks after Money in the Bank, and it's going to be on July the 30th in Nashville. And then 5 weeks after that, you go to the UK, which is basically the 30-year anniversary of SummerSlam, but it's not called SummerSlam. I really don't understand why you didn't give Nashville a normal, different named pay-per-view and put SummerSlam in the UK. But that's not.
You saying SummerSlam's in July?
Yeah, and there's a UK pay-per-view in on September the 3rd.
So what's in August?
Nothing.
Wow.
Because July is the last weekend of July the 30th, and September is the first weekend of September.
Oh, that's
so
whack.
August just gets missed by a week either side.
Oh my God.
But what my point is, why is July's pay-per-view SummerSlam and September in the UK is not SummerSlam when it's 30 years after SummerSlam?
I don't know if it's just time difference that they, because look at what we're dealing with now. For you, it's a great time. For me, I think it's 9 a.m. or something for this pay-per-view.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to get up at 9 a.m. and watch wrestling and get out.
I know. Like I'm getting up and I'll be in the golf studio with that on an iPad on the side. That'll be it. So, all right. Well, that is your Wrestling Informer this week. I hope you enjoyed. You got a lot of news, and we got right to it. There was not much nonsense involved here, which is shocking for us.
It wasn't a 25-minute show, and my body needed it to be. So.
And anytime you tell me let's do a half-hour show, I go, okay, I'll see you in an hour. Well, that's it. So we'll be back next week. So some more information for you. You could check out Billy. He's at K100 Informer on Twitter. He will get your tweets. And if you want to link me into them, because I reply to people if they ask a question, you can go at Lingus Mafia and check out my pin tweet if you want to win some wrestling merchandise, which Billy's still waiting for a signed turnbuckle. If it ever comes back to me.
Yeah, has it come back to you?
Nope.
Do you know where it is, though?
No, I should check. I don't know if it would have the same tracking number as when I first shipped it to you, or if it has a different one now that it's being shipped back.
No, it has the same one.
I got to check then and I have insurance on it, thank God. A signed turnbuckle, a WWF turnbuckle signed by Bret the Hitman Hart. So trying to get that out to you. But I've mailed out, for the people who have signed up to my Patreon, I mailed out the 2 winners that we've had so far by whoever signed up, and we spun the wheel.
Story, so this isn't like anything to be concerned about if you're anyone else. Just this, that I don't know who's stupid here, Cav or the post office, but he mailed it to me so that it would arrive. So the card arrived on Christmas Eve, and there was no delivery on Christmas Day. So they're supposed to deliver you like a card, and they basically said that once it arrived, this parcel arrived to them on Christmas Eve or the 23rd. Or something.
I believe I sent it the first week of December.
So it arrived with them at Christmas Eve, and it said this. And even if you go online, it says this arrived with us on the 24th. So instead of issuing a delivery card on the 27th or wherever, they just left it to me to work out when they had it, and I was supposed to call them, which eventually I did because it had become so long. Yeah, and eventually that did happen, and it turned around. I'm on their database, and they sent me an email saying, "Oh, you still haven't paid for this item." I was like, "Well, I didn't know I was supposed to." And when I called them up to say it did, it was like, "Oh, it was returned like yesterday." It's like it's going back today. It's like it's with you.
Go in the truck.
It's like it's with you right now. Yeah, we just processed it yesterday and put it onto the truck. I was like, to get it off then. They're like, no, we can't do that. You have to go all the way back round the other side of the world. So they gave me 1 day's notice. They gave me 1 day's notice on the reminder and 0 days when it first arrived. And the same thing's almost happened now, where I actually did get the card for my Brett Favre helmet, but it's like if I don't pay it by Monday, it's going to go back because that's how much notice. So yeah, I'm going to pay that as soon. I've been sick for the last 2 days, and I've just been looking at this card on the side, thinking I'll obviously just do it beforehand, but like I'm not going to take the risk.
You got to tomorrow because nothing's open on Sundays, so you'd be screwed.
No. This just means when they get to the office on Monday, they need to see that the payment's been made, so they can not process it to go back. That's it. So yeah, I'll do that now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week. I'm Kev. He's Billy. Talk to you next time.